Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got an absurdly brutal deck tech for you. I mean, well, the episode might not be brutal, but the deck itself is brutal. So, yeah, with all that said, oh gosh, here we go. Let's jump into it. And the commander for this brutal deck tech is Ojer Axonil, Deepest Might, a 4/4 god with trample that costs 4 mana in total, a brand new brutal commander. If a red source you control will deal an amount of non-combat damage less than Ojer Axonil's power to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to its power instead. On top of that, when this does die, return to the battlefield, tap and transform no source control, flips over into Temple of Power, taps for a red or pay 2 and a red, tap, transform it, active on red sources you control dealt 4 more non-combat damage this turn and only as a sorcery. So this actually is incredibly easy for you to flip back over. In fact, we've got an absurd amount of ways to do it. You can usually just do it right away, essentially, if you need to. Or I guess, again, sorcery speed. So on your turn again. But basically, yeah, get it right back out. So very hard to deal with. And then also on top of that, yeah, hey, all of your little pings that you're going to have turn into, at the very least, 4. And of course, in many ways, much more than that, because we've got many ways to make this power absurdly high and to demolish our opponents in absolutely no time. An incredibly brutal commander, one that says, hey, you know what? Even the smallest amount of damage is not safe for your opponents. My things will be fine. You will just burn so quickly with a commander like this. And what doesn't need to burn, though, is the budget because, well, even though the commander itself is like $10, yeah, $10.71, the total budget for this deck, at least with this version of the commander, I believe there's a slightly less expensive version at like $7 or so. Make sure you're checking that out, though. $24.27 with this version of the commander, because the rest of this deck is incredibly budget friendly with every single card in it 50 cents or less. That means the rest of the deck is literally $14 according to Moxfield. Yeah, it's a very budget friendly deck, a budget brutal deck. Let's jump into the tactics, though, and talk about just how brutal we can be. Let's start things off with tack number 1, power play, because again, by giving our commander more and more power, that is more and more pain for our opponents, and Bone Splitter is a very simple but effective card. Single mana, pay a single mana to equip it, +2/+0 to our commander. That is, well, just 2 extra power, which might not seem like a lot, but again, that makes every single one of our non-combat damage red source dealings from 4 up to 6. Absolutely absurd. In a very similar way, we've got Dire Flail, +2/+0. Exact same thing essentially as Bone Splitter, but also can craft with an artifact if you really want. 2/3/0. Whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact other than this. When you do, this creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. So there you go. Then there's Dragon Mantle. And just battlefield draw a card. So that's nice, a little cantrip effect. Also, pay a red, +1/+0. So fire breathing is what is given to our commander, essentially, which means, hey, all of a sudden you can just keep paying 1 extra mana for 1 extra damage per source, essentially. Yeah, this can be pretty absurd. A great finisher for us. There's Mirren Bane Splitter. Flash it in, +2/+0 for a single mana. Enters the battlefield attached to our creature control. So yeah, again, just auto-attach. It's lovely. Or equip it for 3. Oh Naginata, a 1-mana equipment. Attached to only a creature power 3 or greater. No problem. Our commander already has 4. +3/+0 and trample. So again, just an equip 2 cost. That is a huge amount of boost for our damage. Hero's Blade. This one can also be free though. +3/+2. Whenever a ledger creature in battlefield under control, you may attach it to it. Equip 4. So again, you get your commander into play and you're like, hey, cool, an extra 3 power boost. A giant boost though, all at once. Unleash Fury. Double the power to our creature on turn. This can be game ending again. Turn your commander from, let's say, I don't know, 7 power to 14 in a turn. You can just make it so that every single one of your little pings is deadly, is gone. Your opponents are just gone in absolutely no time. So, of course, we also have Rush of Blood. Target creature gets +X/+0 until after exits power again. Basically, another way to double up power. Think about both of those together. Absolutely absurd. Then there's Tavern Brawler, a great repeatable way to just pump our commander. Enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have beginning of your upkeep. Exile a type card your library. Gets +X/+0 until end of turn, or X that card's mana value. We play a card this turn. So again, additional impulse draw, temporary card advantage. On top of that, an additional pump effect that is repeatable. What's not to love about that? But now let's move on to tactic number 2, the golden pig of this deck, which is the number 1 card out of 99, which is Black Blade Reforged. Yeah, this is crazy power throughout the game. +1/+1 for each land you control. Equip legendary creature for 3. What's not to love about this low to the ground 2 mana equipment? Hey, all of a sudden, again, as this game keeps going on and on, you are getting more and more lands in play, and your commander's power becomes immense to the point that, again, all of your non-creature, all of your non-combat damage sources, I should say, are hitting like a truck. Every single one of them. Absolutely absurd. Yeah, a crazy good equipment. Very brutal with this kind of a commander. Definitely, in my opinion, worthy of the title of the Golden Pig. But now let's move on to tactic number 3, Trigger Ping, because, yeah, we need to talk about those non-combat damage sources that we're going to be having. And first up, we've got Erebor, Flames, and a 2/1 Dwarf Artifice. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, 1 damage each opponent. Again, every single opponent, 1 damage. Might not seem like a lot, and it's not. But all of a sudden, even with just your commander in play and no equipment on it, no pump to it, that's extra, 3 damage per opponent. That is 4 damage in total per opponent. That's 12 damage instead of 3. Absurd. If you get some power on your commander, you can get to like 10 power. That is 30 damage in total. It takes absolutely no time to take your opponents out once you're set up properly. Firebrand Archer, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, any non-creature spell, 1 damage to each opponent. Harsh Mentor, whenever opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, it's not a mana ability, 2 damage to that player. Again, 2 is already a good amount, but now all of a sudden it is, potentially 10, let's say, or more. Let's say just even 4, though. That is doubling it up. That is absurd. It can make it so your opponents can't actually activate things. Immolation Shaman, I should say. 1/3 Voshino Shaman. Whenever opponent activates the ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, 1 damage to that player. Again, exact same thing as Harsh Mentor, essentially. But it doesn't matter. Again, that it's 1 versus 2, because when your commander's in play, it's going to be based off that power. Also give +3/+3 menace. That's nice too, I guess. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature is about for control, 1 damage to each opponent. Absolutely brutal. Reckless Fireweaver enters the battlefield. Whenever an artifact, any artifact, which includes non-token artifacts and token artifacts too, enters battlefield control, 1 damage to each opponent. Yeah, that can take them out absolutely no time at all. Fiery Inscription enters battlefield, the ring tempts you. Lovely. More importantly, though, whenever you cast an sorcery spell, 2 damage to each opponent. That is reminiscent of another card, Gutter Snipe. Yeah, basically another Gutter Snipe for this deck. Absurd with this kind of a commander. Again, exact same thing. Instant sorcery, 2 damage to each opponent. Ingenious Arterialist. Whenever one or more artifacts enter the battlefield under control, that much damage to each opponent. Again, no. Hey, damage based on my commander's power. Tulling Geopede. Whenever a land is battlefield under control, 1 damage to each opponent. Again, now even just your lands that you're playing. Even just your lands are taking your opponents out as well. Woody Roastmaster. Again, basically the exact same thing as Impact Tremors in a way. A creature in the battlefield under control, 1 damage to each opponent. They're not going to last very long at all. Your opponent's creatures can help you out too, though. Gimli, counter of kills. 4/3 trampling. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, 1 damage to that creature controller, which again can turn into an absurd amount of damage. Even turning to 4 is brutal, but yeah, turning it into like 10 plus, they're not going to stand a chance. Spitfire Lagok, another great one. Landers battlefield control, 1 damage each opponent. So again, so many triggers, so many ways to take your opponents out in absolutely no time. But now let's move on to tactic number 4, Activate Ping, because, we've got some activations that can take our opponents out, too. These you can save for the right moment that you need. Blister, Spit Gremlin, pay 1 tap, 1 damage each opponent. Also, when you cast a non-creature spell, untap it. So, yeah, it might cost some mana. That's going to be a lot of damage, though, throughout the game. Sawblade, Scamp, Haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get an oil counter on this. That's going to happen quite a bit throughout the game. On top of that, tap, remove an oil counter from it. 1 damage to each opponent. Spear Spewer, tap, 1 damage to each player. Oh, no, I hit myself for 1. Oh, but my opponents are getting hit for like 10 plus each. Lovely. Sunshot Militia. Yeah, this can be so deadly once you're set up properly. Tap 2 and tap artifacts and a creature control. 1 damage each opponent. Activate as a sorcery, so keep that in mind. But yeah, on your turn when you're activating this, your opponents won't stand any kind of a chance. Thermo Alchemist. Tap 1 damage each opponent whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell. Untap it so you can keep doing it again and again and again. Speaking of which, Cinder Pyromancer. Well, tap 1 damage to target player, so just 1 player. They're the unlucky one, though, because whenever you play a red spell, you can untap it, so you can keep untapping, taking down that player quite quickly. Gearport, Aether Grid, tap 2 and tap artifacts you control, 1 damage to any target. Again, any target. But yeah, if you're hitting an opponent, it's going to be for a lot. Nettle Drone, tap 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast a color spell, untap it. Lovely. Unruly Catapult, tap 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast instant sorcery, untap it. So again, a lot of repeatable activations that we can really take advantage of. And speaking of repeat, hey, life on repeat, tack number 5, Lava Dart. Something that seems so simple, so easy, but so deadly with this deck. Instant for a single red mana, 1 damage to any target. Oh, and by the way, flashback, sacrifice a mountain, which we have a lot of those. Hey, do it again. And all of a sudden, you're like, hey, you know what? Let's just take someone out really quickly, really easily, essentially for just a single red mana, a single mountain, essentially. Just a lot of damage there. Then there's Sulfuric Vortex, enchantment for 3 mana in total. Beginning of each player's upkeep, 2 damage to that player. Again, that's going to be slightly more than 2 damage for our opponents. Also, hey, you can't gain life, so a way to shut things down to say, there's no escaping this. You just keep taking a lot of damage. I'll take some too. Not nearly as much as you're taking, though, and you're going to get taken out with this brutal method. Next up, though, let's move on to tack number 6, Smash It, because, yeah, your opponents, we're going to be punishing them, burninating them, but also burninating their things down to the ground. By force, destroy X target artifacts. Lovely. Remove all the hope that they have. Abrade, 3 damage to target creature or destroy an artifact, so whatever you need to do. Red Sun's Twilight, X artifacts are going to be destroyed. Also, if X is 5 or more, you get a copy of those, a temporary copy. But yeah, hey, I just destroyed your things. Thank you. I appreciate all of those. You find some prisoner, destroy target artifact, or hey, get access to the top 3 cards of opponent's library and utilize those, temporarily. But yeah, utilize those. Fiery Confluence, a very brutal card for this deck. You can choose the same mode more than once if you really want to. 1 damage to each creature, 2 damage to each opponent, destroy target artifacts. So essentially, yeah, a lot of damage to your opponents, thanks to your commander. Damage to creatures too, which is nice, and also destroying artifacts, whatever you need. If you need to destroy everything, though, a great panic button is Neverall's Disc. Enters battlefield, tap, pay 1, tap, destroy artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Again, reset things if you really need to. But yeah, you can just burnate your opponents probably before that. Next up, let's go on to tack number 7, Lend a Hand. Let's dig down into our deck to get the right cards that we need with Faithless Looting. Draw 2, discard 2, flash it back. Keep in mind, again, with flashback spells like this, they work really well with things like, Gutter Snipe. Next up, Valdarian Epicure. Enters battlefield, 1 damage to each opponent. Also, you get a blood token, so you can dig down into your deck. Bitter Reunion. Enters battlefield, discard 1, draw 2. You can also give your creatures haste by actually sacrificing this. Cathartic Reunion. Discard 2, draw 3. Thrill Possibility. Instant speed, discard 1, draw 2. Tormenting Voice. Exact same thing, but at sorcery speed. Light up the stage. Spectacle, yeah, we're gonna have Spectacle very easily. Pay a single red mana, essentially. Exile the top 2, basically impulse draw. Lovely. Magus the Wheel, reset things completely. Pay 1 red, tap, sacrifice, wheel. Everyone discards their hand, draws 7 cards. Seize Spoils, discard 1 card, draw 2, make a treasure token. Again, keep in mind those ones that care about artifacts coming into play. Lovely. Keep track of that. Outpost Siege. Enters the battlefield, choose cons or dragons. Cons, you're going to get to basically impulse draw, which is nice. Maybe more importantly, though, dragons. Whenever a creature control leaves the battlefield, 1 damage to any target. So yeah, if you're hitting your opponents with that, that's going to be quite a bit thanks to your commander. Pirates, Pillage, another great spell. Discard 1 card, draw 2, make 2 treasure tokens again, so you can punish your opponents even further with something like this. Next up, let's move on to tack number 8 and take a step back with Fire It Up, because we are going to actually ramp to get there. Wayfarer's Bauble. Of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice, get it basically into play tap. Keep in mind with tunneling GP, that can be even deadlier. Everflowing Chalice, a very flexible mana rock. 2, taps for 1, 4, taps for 2, whatever you need. Fire Diamond, enters battlefield, tap, taps for a red. Fractured Power Stone, enters battlefield, untap, taps for a colorless. Mind Stone, exact same thing, but we can pay 1 to tap and sacrifice to draw a card. Prismatic Lens, exact same thing, but we can actually filter mana with it if we really need that. Flick a Coin, a pretty funny card in this deck. 1 damage to any target, so again, that can be incredibly deadly to an opponent. Also, you get a treasure token, and you draw a card. All the good things for you, all the bad things for your opponents. Unstable Obelisk, you can tap for a colorless, you can sacrifice to destroy any permanent on the battlefield. Worn Power Stone, very efficient, very effective. Enters battlefield, tapped for 3 mana, tap for 2. Then there's a Filer of Instinct. Oh my goodness. A 4/4 first strike for 4 mana. Whenever you cast a red permanent spell, you can pay 2 life. Those spells cost red less to cast for each life paid this way. You only reduce the amount of red mana you pay, essentially, so you can save mana on your red permanent spells, which you have a lot of them. On top of that, whenever you cast a red permanent spell, also 1 damage to any target, including your opponent's faces, which becomes a lot more with your commander. Hedron Archive then as well. Tap for 2. Pay 2 and tap and sacrifice. Draw 2 cards. Dig down deeper into your deck. But now that we've talked about every single non-land card in this deck, let's talk about one great land that I want to highlight, and that is Spikefield Hazard, a single red mana for an MDFC land. The backside is land that enters the battlefield, taps for a red. Instant speed, 1 damage to any target. If a permanent dealt damage this way, it would die this turn, exile instead. Again, this basically, if you're targeting an opponent, just turns into, hey, yeah, I'll take you out with this tiny little MDFC land because my commander's power is immense. Goodbye. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this deck. How brutal is it? Are there ways to make it even more brutal, even on a budget like this one? Again, if you are interested in this commander, in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.